And just when you see the amount of victims and how he was able to operate this, I mean, it's just mind boggling. You in your book describe it as a pedophiliac pyramid scheme. But what's a trend for years and decades is that Jeffrey Epstein seemed to use money as both a weapon and a shield. And I think for most of his life, his adult life rather, Jeffrey Epstein was this elusive, ultra wealthy figure. He was compared to people like fictional characters like Jay Gatsby, like the talented Mr. Ripley. He described himself as an experienced and successful financier and businessman. According to your reporting, I mean, his resume is a little light for that title, but he was massively wealthy. At the time of his death, his estate says that he was worth $578 million. So I think a question that a lot of people have, including yourself, is twofold when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein's finances. One, how did he get so rich? And two, how was he financing this sex trafficking operation?
Yes, of course. These are also questions that the massive amount of material in the FBI files could help answer. There's also questions as to, did Jeffrey Epstein have ties to intelligence? Did he have any ties in the US to the government? And also, did he have any ties to the Israeli Mossad? Okay, Alexandra Acosta had allegedly said that Jeffrey Epstein was part of intelligence, and that also played into the fact that he received that kind of slap on the wrist conviction. So not only is he, is there a massive amount of money here that exchanged hands, but there's also questions of intelligence and who knew about this operation. I've been very happy to hear through all that's come out in the past 2 weeks that Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon has been going down the money road. He's been, looking into Jeffrey Epstein's finances. And he's reported that he's uncovered the fact that there were almost 5,000 wire transfers totaling $1 billion of money that Jeffrey Epstein moved through Russian banks to not only pay out some of his victims, but paid other individuals under suspicious circumstances. And, after Jeffrey Epstein was arrested down in Florida and received that slap on the wrist sentencing, he was wary of alerting authorities to his continued sex trafficking away from the prying eyes of New York police and also Palm Beach, Florida police. So he really moved his operation to his island in the Virgin Islands. And he used international fixers to deliver him victims. These were young women and children that were flown to him from places like Russia and Turkey and other countries in Eastern Europe. And they would be flown into the Virgin Islands and then ferried on boats to his island. And the Attorney General in the Virgin Islands, Denise George, after Jeffrey Epstein's death, launched an investigation into what went on there at the island. And she had learned that airport personnel had seen girls as young as 12 years old getting off of planes and being sent to Jeffrey Epstein's island home. Now that raises alarm bells in the sense of, who are the men on the other side who were putting these girls on planes with the intention for Jeffrey Epstein to sexually abuse them? Okay, they were model fixers and they were other international individuals. I want to know in those files what information the FBI has about that operation. And are there any men that they could work with other countries to possibly apprehend and charge in connection to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes? Because these men were enablers. They did things that were almost as worse as Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell in terms of targeting young women and children and sending them to a convicted sexual predator across, into America. Now we know that one man, his name is Jean-Luc Brunel. He was a French modeling scout from Paris. After Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, he was arrested in Paris, France, on unrelated rape charges, and he died behind bars in a similar fashion to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we know that Mr. Brunel had been part of Jeffrey Epstein's operation. There's photographs of him with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. There's documentation showing the two together. Now, he, of course, is dead, but there are other men who may still be out there who took part in this operation. Let's get to the bottom of that. And let's get to the bottom of how Jeffrey Epstein made his money and how that money was distributed. We know that Jeffrey Epstein had two great financial benefactors. One was Leslie Wexner, who was the founder of the L Brands. He worked with Jeffrey Epstein in the earliest days. Jeffrey Epstein became his financial consultant and a financial advisor. He even gave Jeffrey Epstein power of attorney. This was remarkable at the time and raised a lot of questions among individuals. Now, Mr. Wexner has denied all knowledge of any wrongdoing relating to Jeffrey Epstein. He simply said he was completely unaware of what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. And Mr. Wexner has never been investigated by law enforcement as to anything that would have been any type of criminality. In fact, Leslie Wexner said that Jeffrey Epstein stole money from him. And Jeffrey Epstein apparently paid some of that money back through making donations to a charity in the name of Leslie Wexner's wife. But Jeffrey Epstein received multiple millions of dollars from Les Wexner. And Jeffrey Epstein also received upwards of $160 million from Leon Black, who was co-founder of the Apollo Global Fund here in New York, and a financial wizard. Now, Mr. Black also has denied any wrongdoing. He's denied any knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, and he also has never been under any type of investigation by law enforcement. But the combination of the monies from both Mr. Wexner and Mr. Black really seeded Jeffrey Epstein's criminality in a sense. And Denise George, the former Attorney General in the Virgin Islands, said that the company Jeffrey Epstein had created in the Virgin Islands, a company called Southern Trust, was actually a front for criminality. And she went after Jeffrey Epstein's estate and the co-executors of his estate, who, should be speaking, I believe, to authorities and politicians in America to kind of explain the whole financial structure of Jeffrey Epstein. He had, by the way, Brittany, more than 150 different bank accounts, and he used multiple banks. And over time, victims have sued JP Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank for kind of looking the other way or not following through on warnings that they had received about Jeffrey Epstein. And both banks made financial settlements with the victims to the tune of more than $200 million. So the whole side of Jeffrey Epstein's finances, how he made his money, are there other individuals that we don't know about, billionaires who also gave him money for financial help? Are there names that we don't know about this would be very important to learn from the FBI files. And it's not only the information about how he made his money, but how he took his money and used it to basically pay for his sex trafficking ring over the course of 2 decades. So there's a lot of questions, and it's important to find out, are there individuals who should be brought up on financial crimes related to this scandal?